Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm all sorry about my setup here, but this is what works. So, good. Okay, well, before we jump in, I do have a lot, and so take a deep breath. We're going to go hard for 45 minutes. But just out of curiosity, to give me a little bit of grounding, so how many of you have children, let's say, under 12? Okay. And so how many have teenagers? Okay, great. All right. Grandchildren? Okay, so we got a little bit of everything. And those of you with teenagers, how many of your teenagers have their own smartphone or device? Okay, all right, it's okay. Don't worry, non-judgment zone. Don't feel bad. And then of those kids, how many of them are on social media? Okay, a few. Okay. What about video games? Okay, all right, good. Well, I've got lots to say about all of that, but don't worry. We're not here to make anybody feel bad or anything like that. A lot of what I'm going to share today are facts that we've only just recently figured out in the last several years. We did not know when smartphones came out, when the internet went crazy. We did not know then what we know now. And so really recently there's a lot of research that has come out, and that's part of the reason why I'm here to blow the whistle, is that there's a lot of research about the harms and how addictive these devices and these games are. And so we're at a really crucial point in our parenting, in our grandparenting, where we need to start making some choices, and so that we can protect our children and our next generation of children's, their mental health. And so that's what I'm here to do today, is to invite you to hit the pause button on all your devices, and do some real strategic planning as you're raising your children and your grandchildren. So it's a critical time. So I'm glad you're here. There's going to be some slides that might be uncomfortable. I apologize for that. Nothing I'm sharing isn't what your children aren't seeing on social media already. And so I want you guys to know what it is that they're seeing. And I just really chose the tame stuff. But if we don't understand what our kids are up against, we cannot help them. And if we're not aware of what we expose them to when we hand over those devices, then also we're kind of setting them up for failure. So it's important to have these conversations. So, okay, that's gonna go, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna hit on 3 big topics: social media harms, pornography, and then the harms that screens themselves are causing. And so again, if you need to take a break, my whole talk is full of triggers. If you need to take a break, please do so. And so, like was mentioned already, how I got into this is living with these women that were fleeing the sex trade in Calgary, and I learned firsthand from them how deadly, how dangerous these men are. And we're not here pointing fingers at men, but we need to recognize too, there's a lot of harm being done by a certain group of men. And so we need to be talking about those things, and we need to be aware of how they're using the internet to access our children. So that's exactly how I got started, is I saw that movement to online, and then our children moved online, and they were hanging out in the same places, and these predators had easy access to our kids. And we need to inform and educate and equip our children to know how to behave online, as well as delay as much as possible. So that's definitely part of my message as well. And so this is what's been happening we've been, maybe last 10, 15 years, social media has really come out. And this is the direct result of social media. Studies have made the causal link from social media usage, especially the quantity, to these harms right here. This is specifically for girls over the last decade or so. So emergency room admissions for self-harm have quintupled in that age bracket, 10 to 14 years old. Suicide rates for 10 to 14-year-olds, that shouldn't even be in the same sentence, have tripled. Girls are having cosmetic surgery. Their bodies are still developing, and they're feeling like they have to fix their bodies. And all of this is coming from the messaging that they're getting through social media, that they're not good enough. Something is wrong with them. They don't look the way they should. This is a story of London. She took her life, sadly, and it was due to her social media use. She was given one account. She became obsessed with checking those notifications, seeing how her post did, seeing how many followers she got, and it just becomes this obsession. And where so many girls are losing their ability to enjoy life, and all they are focused on is how many likes, how many followers. And unfortunately, once you get into that trap, it's never ending. And so she had multiple accounts, and you set up a false account so you can like your other videos on your own account just because you need that red dot, you need to see that notification. And then what happens with social media is they start to track you, and they saw that London was starting to feel not feel good about herself and struggling with low self-esteem and depression. And so what happens with the algorithm, they give you exactly what they think you need to stay on longer. And so they start flooding her feed with self-harm content and with depressing content, to a point where she took her own life because she was fed what to do when you don't feel good, what to do when you feel depressed. And so she was fed that stuff, and that's exactly what she did, because she is a child and she doesn't know any better. And so it was a slow, slippery slope. But that is her story, and unfortunately it's not a one-off story. There's a lot of stories like this. Oh, by the way, you are welcome to take pictures of my slides. It could be a little bit faster than writing down notes. Our boys are not doing any better. Depression is up 161% over the last decade. Suicide, the leading cause of death for teenage boys. Pornography exposure, 8 to 11 years old. 97% of boys are video gaming, they're sleep deprived, 32% are failing to launch. That means failing to leave home, failing to get a driver's license. They're not even interested in dating anymore. They've got everything they need through the click of their device. And this is the world they're growing up in. And this is why we are here. We need to fight this. We need to push back, but we need to understand what it is that we're up against. So here we go. We're going to jump in. We're going to look specifically right now at social media and girls. And sorry, it just takes a second, it seems. There we go. Okay, so you may not be able to see the lines clearly, but there's 3 lines here. One is internet hours, social media use, and depression. And what you'll see here is a sudden spike about the year 2010, 2011. And that's when Instagram and Snapchat kind of became huge. It went everywhere. All the teens were jumping on it. And again, we didn't know at first what it entailed. We thought it was just cute. We thought it was a way to help our kids connect. So we let them all jump on it. And we didn't realize that, especially for girls, first of all, they're going to be exposed to all this overly sexual content. And they're going to be exposed to all these perfect bodies and all these celebrities that seem to have a perfect life. And we are social creatures. We compare ourselves with other girls, other women. And so what the message that our young girls are getting on social media is, again, you're not good enough and you never will be. And so depression skyrocketed right when they all jumped onto social media. These are some of the images that they will see on social media. Does anybody know who this is? Okay, if I ask the teenagers, they all know who this is. This is Kim Kardashian. Maybe you know the name, but she's a big influencer celebrity, and she has a completely unrealistic body shape. Of course, she's had the help of, surgery and professional photographers, professional makeup artists, all those things. This is all photoshopped, and, a lot of time and money goes into that one photo, right? But this is what girls are comparing themselves to, completely unrealistic, filtered images of what it means to be a woman or a female. And this is how it starts. So the influence is subtle, but here we go. Come on. Okay, can I get you to skip there, Kelly? There we go. Okay, so this is how it starts. It starts innocently, right? Instagram says there are 13 plus, so a lot of 13-year-olds are given Instagram. Parents think, oh, okay, we can trust this company. And it starts with cute photos, playing with your toys or whatever, nothing too wild and crazy. But what happens if we allow our girls onto Instagram, and boys are on Instagram too and social media, they're affected differently. Girls are impacted more negatively. They start to realize which photos get more likes, which photos get more attraction or gets more comments. And this is not done on purpose. It's very subtle, but the girls will start to go back and again, you're checking all the time, and then trying to figure out which photos are more popular. And if they have a public account, even if they don't, they will be influenced by their followers. Again, especially if you have a public account. This is a public account. So this is the change you can see happening over a 3-year period. Girls will get more sexualized on social media because that's what they see, and they also learn through likes. They're being trained through their own algorithms that these are the photos that get more engagement, and those are the ones usually that show more skin, that are a little more sexy, and that is what is teaching and grooming our girls. And what that sets them up for is this, which is a reality that many girls are facing now in high school. This went around a high school. This is normal, unfortunately now, this is normal public school behavior. So this is where girls are exposed to prices for certain photos. And you'll see there, the more they're willing to do and show, the more money there is. And, not every girl's gonna fall for this, but she will still see it. She will still be exposed to it. And it is a culture that is grooming our girls and sexualizing them. So now 1/3 of teenage kids, average teenage kids growing up on the internet, think it is normal to send a nude. There's nothing normal about that. It comes with serious harm, serious ramifications, which we'll talk about here. But this is the culture that they are being raised in. And so, for example, here's Selena. So Selena was 14 years old, and typical girl in school, didn't have a lot of friends, but she liked one certain boy, and unfortunately, this is what is happening too often. The boy gets her number, he texts her, almost immediately, like it is unbelievable, almost immediately a boy will ask a girl for a nude. That is considered first base right now. They don't talk, they don't know their last name. They've never had a conversation in person. He probably has never sat beside her in school. There's no connection. There's nothing. And unfortunately, unless we educate our girls otherwise, they think this is what I should do. And so Selena did, because she felt that's what girls do. So she sends it to him, and then, like always, it goes wildfire across the school. And then it goes into the next school. And then somebody uploaded it to Pornhub, a popular porn website. And so now it's everywhere. And the bullying starts, the harassment, all the other boys now texting her, send me more, send me more, send me more. Or if you don't, I will come and get you, or I will hurt you, or I'll share this with your mom, that kind of thing. And so she drops out of school, depression, unable to eat, unable to sleep. It just is a spiral, right? And then she ends up, somebody introduces her to drugs, and she's looking for a way to escape, so she gets into drugs. And then her mom, they had some history there. She ends up homeless. This is a picture of her in her car. All of that from sending a nude to a boy because she thought that's what kids do. Another thing that is happening on social media, and another thing that is grooming our girls, if you have girls, ask them if they know the Bop House, if they've heard of the Bop House. The Bop House is a group of young women. Have any of you heard of OnlyFans? Okay. So OnlyFans is a really dangerous cultural phenomena that is growing like wildfire again. It is basically girls that have been raised on Instagram and have been conditioned to perform for likes. When they turn 18, they have been brainwashed to believe that if they just start posting now more sexy photos, that they will make a ton of money, is the lie that OnlyFans has communicated. And so many, many girls are buying into this lie. And again, they've been desensitized because they've already been performing for likes for like a decade, right? And so when they turn 18, they will commonly say, this is common, you guys, in high school, only ugly girls get diplomas. They're so desensitized to their bodies, and they're used to performing for likes, and so they think, well, it's no big deal. I will just post a few nude photos on OnlyFans, and they think they will make a ton of money. Bop House is a group of girls who are all OnlyFans content creators. So that's the official name, content creators, but what they are porn producers, and many are also in the sex trade. So this is being normalized and presented to our children on social media. And if we aren't having these conversations with our kids, this is what is shaping them. Very dangerous for young girls to be exposed to this message, and for our boys as well, you can imagine. And OnlyFans is so tricky. It's amazing that it's legal. But basically, they present this glamorous, fun lifestyle. They call it, they've changed the language. So it's empowerment, it's sisterhood, it's body positivity. They've switched the language, right? But in reality, it's sexual exploitation. They're exploiting themselves. They're using their bodies. The only thing they're after is money. Like, it's not about value or the beauty of your body, the preciousness of it, the privacy of it. It's just about what can you do to get as much money as possible. And so they present this very glamorous lifestyle, like ridiculously glamorous. The one girl there, she made more than LeBron James in a year. This is the money that they say is out there. This other lady here, she's flying her dogs to the groomers in her private jet. And so there is obviously money there, but it is 0.0001% that make more than $1 million a year. And there's over 4 million women trying to produce porn on OnlyFans. And the average income that these women are making after spending hours promoting their little account, the average income is $200 a month. And for that, they're spending hours trying to create that perfect image. And so that's what's very troubling, and you need to know that. I believe it's a slippery slope from Instagram and being desensitized and being groomed on Instagram. And social media is where these women market their lifestyle or their OnlyFans account. You cannot go on OnlyFans and search up your favorite content creator. They do it all through social media. So prostitution and pornography is being normalized in front of our children's eyes on social media. You ask any high school girl if they know about Bop House, and they know who these girls are. It is alarming. And we have to talk about that. We have to help our kids develop a critical eye for our culture. Moving on, next part, we're going to talk about video games and pornography. And again, yes, girls struggle with this as well, but it's hurting boys more and at a larger rate. So that's why I'm going to just focus kind of the impact it's had on boys. So, it's so sad that video games are so addictive and so harmful. It's not the way they used to be 20 years ago, where you can go, you can play, you can log off, walk away. There's no end to video games now. They just suck you in. It's just this vortex, and it's hard to get out because they're so well designed. I admit that. Like, they're clever. You're moving up levels. You're building universes. Like, you're fighting together with your friends. Like, it's everything that boys need, right? Right here. Competition, teamwork, challenge, everything our boys deserve. They should have these things, but unfortunately, they should have this in real life. And unfortunately, even though video games promises all these things, what it delivers is actually this, right? Addiction, isolation, it's rewiring their brains that they're so used to such a quick, fast, high level of dopamine, like really high releases of dopamine, that once their brains are addicted and wired to that high level, nothing else in the world can compete. Certainly not school, certainly not reading a book, even getting together with a friend, so boring once their brain has been hooked on that high level of dopamine. And so with video games, you have to be so careful. Do you want to bring it in the house? Because if you do, you better be prepared to battle, because you cannot beat that thing, those algorithms, the way that they're designed. Yeah, no parent can fight that. This is Cam Adair, that photo there, and he got heavily addicted. He, again, bullying at school, not doing well with friends, and often that's kind of the push, right? Where on the video games, you are so strong, and you're so confident, you're so capable, you feel so good about yourself, but unfortunately, it takes over. And for him, he was gaming up to 16 hours a day before, and it affects your brain, right? He became so depressed that he was contemplating suicide. And thank goodness he didn't. He reached out to his parents and got help, and I'll tell you the rest of his story a little bit later. Sorry, this thing is, it's not really quite working here. Okay, we'll get back there. I guess it's a little bit of a delay. Okay, give me a second here. Oh, come on. Okay. There we are. Stop. Don't move. Okay. So once they're used to the high dopamine on video games, remember online when we're doing anything, whether it's gaming or it's going to pornography or going to social media or even a child being given an iPad, what they're doing is they're creating neural pathways in the brain. And so I want you to imagine a grassy field, and every day you're walking from your house to the school, and there's going to be a path that develops right there in the grass, right? And so that's what's happening with our kids, is they're developing this pathway in their brain, and they're conditioning their brain to need that high level of dopamine. And so if they want to stop that bad habit, it is possible because their brains are soft still, but they have to start a new pathway, and that is not happening online because we're conditioning our brain to need that quick reward. But the good news is the brain can be rewired, and once you start walking down a different path, the grass here will grow back. And that's the beauty of fighting addictions, is that you can undo those pathways, and that's something that we want to help our kids get to if they've walked that pathway too much, right? But unfortunately, with that video game pathway, it is so addictive and so stimulating. The only thing that can compete with that is pornography. Pornography is the next level of dopamine, and so having a video game addiction will set you up for a porn addiction because it's the only thing that will match that level of dopamine. And so this is Smith Alley. He first stumbled upon pornography like many kids do, just kind of twiddling around on the internet, not really know what you're doing, clicking here and there and everywhere, and all of a sudden it's there in front of your face. And if we don't tell our kids what to do in that moment, they will do what comes naturally, which is to look and to stare and wonder what is going on there. So that's what happened with Smith. That was his first introduction. But he kind of knew deep down it was wrong and he shouldn't be looking at that, so he quickly slammed the lid down and he left it, and he tried to forget about it for about a year, and he was successful for about a year. But unfortunately, he was facing a lot of pressure at school. He wasn't well liked. He was being bullied. He had a speech impediment, and so, all the things that just make easy picking on for other kids, unfortunately. And so he was looking for escape. And then he thought, when I was on that website, I could forget everything. I could forget the whole world. And so he found himself being pulled back out of curiosity, right? Which is natural, totally natural for our kids. Why wouldn't they be curious? And so he goes back there, and unfortunately what happens is he ends up getting addicted, getting hooked. It's so intriguing that you keep going back over and over and over again. And it became such a bad habit that he was on it daily. By the time he was 14, he's on it every day. His parents didn't realize what was happening, so he got really good at hiding his tracks as well. And then one day, the police came to the door, and what had happened is that he had learned how to treat girls by what he was seeing, by what he was observing. And so he tried it out on a young girl that he was seeing. He was dating a girl, and he didn't realize that that's called sexual assault, actually. And so what happens with porn is that it's educating our desires, it's teaching kids about sex. And unfortunately, it has nothing to do with sex, but that's where they're going, and that's where they're learning about it. And so with Smith, that was the first time that his parents realized how bad it had gotten. And he said it was the worst day of his life and the best day of his life, because that's when his secret could come out, and finally he could start to deal with it. The next section is about pornography. It's not for young ears, so I would recommend taking the kids out. I need to tell you guys the truth about porn, and the reason I need you guys to know about it is because if you don't realize what is at stake, if you don't realize what your kids will see in one click, you're not going to take it seriously enough, and you're not going to fight it hard enough. And that's what's happening with our kids, is they're stumbling upon it 8 to 11 years old, and we cannot let that happen. So thank you, sorry about that, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it is that they're seeing and how it's impacting their brain. So this is the size of it. This is how popular. This is only one website, but 5.8 billion visits a month. So can we just recognize that this is a problem in our world, and Christians are not immune to this problem? We're seeing it in the news all the time, right? Somebody else falls to this. Somebody else gets caught with child sexual abuse material called CSAM. It is a slippery slope. It is everywhere. It's one click away, unfortunately, and you know, the porn industry thinks it's great. They are a for-profit business. They'll stop at nothing. They are unregulated. Even they said they can't believe the stuff that they're allowed to get away with. And it's true. It is a race to the bottom. The different porn industries, they're just fighting for viewers, right? They're fighting for customers. And they know that the younger they can get kids hooked on their product, the longer they will be a customer, a paying customer, right? And so that is their goal, is early exposure and keep them as long as possible. And so that's why it has become a $100 billion industry. They make more than these 7 companies combined, and they know exactly what they're doing. They understand the brain, and they know how addictive their product is. And so this gives you an idea of the level of dopamine that is released by the body by these different chemical or man-made products. So you can see there pornography is at the top, equivalent to amphetamines, and cocaine doesn't even come near that. And you can imagine, I'm sure you've heard how addictive cocaine is, right? Doesn't compare with pornography. The impact it has on the brain is so powerful because everything there is man-made, it's manufactured, it's been chemically altered, surgically altered, it's photoshopped, the angles, everything is so, it's not real, none of it's real, it's all staged, and yet it is so compelling that kids, especially kids with an undeveloped brain, when they click on that, nothing can prepare them for that, unfortunately, and they are literally paralyzed in shock and terror as it goes into their eyes and into their brain. So we have to fight this at every cost and with everything we've got to delay that first exposure, prepare them what to do when they see it, and then help them to process it afterwards. So it's critical to be heavily involved in our children's online activities and having ongoing conversations. They say a minimum 10 conversations about pornography before they're 10. That's a bare minimum. I hope it's a lot more than that. And so the next slide I'm going to show you is a typical porn scene. It is only in words, so it's only words, okay? But again, you guys have to realize what our kids are up against and why your role is so important to protect them from seeing this. Some of you may not want to look. It could be a huge trigger warning, but this is what is available on one click, no age verification necessary. This is normal pornography, and remember, there's so many videos playing at one time, all autoplay. So this is what your children will be flooded with if there aren't proper protections in place. So have a look at some of those things. Nothing to do with sex. It is torture. It is a crime scene. And this is traumatizing and destroying a generation. Okay, that's what we're up against. That is our battle. That is why we need to do everything we can to make sure that they don't stumble upon it. Come on. Sorry, can you fast forward that one slide there? Can you move one slide up? Thank you. Okay. All right. Take a deep breath. That was a lot, I know. We're going to move on quickly to predators. Okay. Sorry. Next slide. There you go. Okay. I need to talk to you about predators because this is what is happening a lot with our children, and often the parents don't realize what's happening or who they're talking to in the next room. We think, oh, they're in the next room, they're on a screen, they're quiet, everything is fine. Absolutely not. That's the worst thing, the worst situation we can put our kids in. Alone with a device, silent. There should never be silence. You need to always be listening to what they're hearing, because what's happening is that predators have hijacked popular children's programs to get past filters, or accidentally a child searches up, what's that girl's name, the Frozen girl's name. They click on that, and all of a sudden they could be on a cartoon pornographic video, Or with YouTube, maybe you go start Peppa Pig, you don't know the next video is Peppa Pig, but it's a hijacked version of it. And this is happening a lot. And so all of a sudden your child is there alone. You think they're safe. They're in your house, and yet they're being exposed to this horribly violent content. That blurred video is Roblox. And in Roblox, they can play actual school shootings, real school shootings with the real school name and even the real names of the victims that were shot on their little avatars, and our children are playing school shooting on games like Roblox. So, and Roblox as well, the other two there is, it is the #1 worst app right now. If you know anybody on Roblox, a lot of these things I'm not gonna say is a hard no, but Roblox is a hard no. It is full of predators. It's more social media than video game. The predators can make their own game, and they invite the children to come play with them. And remember, it's all avatars, so you don't know you're playing with a 52-year-old man. You think it's another 13-year-old girl. And then they're building relationship with them through Roblox. So Roblox is the absolute #1 worst game for predators. And the police and all law enforcement are just saying, get your kids off Roblox right now. Okay, come on, slide. There we go. Okay. So another way that predators are accessing our children is not only through the games they play, but through social media. They connect with them there. Especially Snapchat's really dangerous because they have a quick ad feature. And so if you have a friend, you can do a quick ad and you would add all her friends. And so that could be 30, 40, 50, 100 people that are quickly added to you, and you don't even know who they are. And once a predator gets in on one account, then they can get access to all these other accounts. And they love Snapchat because the conversations and photos disappear. So it's one of their favorite apps. Okay. You have to know that predators are on every game. Anywhere there's children, they're there, often within seconds or minutes. And they're good at what they do. They know how to engage these kids. They know how to play the game with them, and then almost always they're going to ask to move that conversation to another app where it's more private. And usually it's these 3 apps that they will ask to move the conversation to. So if you're allowing your kids to game, then you have to be either turn the chats off, or you have to be regularly checking them to see the conversation, to see where it goes or what's odd, or who is this person you're talking to? Don't know them? Delete, block. They don't need to be chatting with anybody they don't physically know in person. And so these are the apps that they love to move the conversation to. So that's the first red flag. You need to tell your kids, if somebody ever wants to move the conversation, or somebody's chatting with you and wants to know a lot about you, you need to come tell me, and we're going to work it out together. You have to be careful that you don't say and we're going to get rid of that game. We're going to stop that right away, because then they're hesitant to tell you. And so, if your kids are on Roblox and you want to have that conversation, then you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to be wise about that for sure. You're going to have to probably tell them, look, I learned some things today, and I've learned that that's not a safe place for you to be, and my job is to keep you safe. And so, is there another game that we could find that is safer? You have to be wise. You know your children better than me. For some, you could do cold turkey. If they're young enough, you can do cold turkey. If they're older, then you got to find a little strategic way to get what you want. And this is how sextortion happens, right? They present themselves as a young female, and like I said before, conversations move very quickly nowadays online. It doesn't take long before there's somebody asking for a nude photo. And so in a sextortion case, predators and actually criminal groups, often overseas, are pretending to be young women, and they can steal another girl's profile, so it looks very real. You can't tell that it's not that person. It can be a live girl. And so she'll send a photo, and then she'll ask the boy to send a photo. And this is happening at an alarming rate across Canada. The police are really warning parents to talk to kids, about boys specifically, about never, ever, ever send a nude, because you don't know who it is you're sending it to. And like Selena, she thought she's sending it to a boy. Well, she was, but then you lose control after that, and it can go all over the internet. And so what's happening with boys is they're vulnerable. Their brains are not fully developed. They're curious. They don't think things through. It's all the great things about being a boy. But unfortunately, when you give them that device and you give them privacy and they're allowed to take that device into their bedroom, it's a bad combination. Those things should not go together. And this is what is happening to too many boys, like Levi here. His parents were very careful, very diligent. They didn't give him a phone for a long time. When he was 13, they looked on the App Store and he was begging for Instagram. And they said, oh, okay, well, it says here it's 13 plus, so it must be okay. They let him get Instagram on his 13th birthday. 3 days later, he got tricked by sextortion. And once you send that photo, they hound you relentlessly for money. And it doesn't matter what you send. It's never enough. And they torment these young boys. And unfortunately, they back them into the corner, and they make them believe that there's no way out except for taking your own life. And it's happening too much. So we need to be talking to boys, and we need to tell them, hey, you might. We make mistakes. Your brain is not developed. You might do this. If you do, you come tell me. We will fight it together. There are organizations that work hard to remove those photos. Taking your life is never an option. And our boys need to hear that message before they're in that situation, middle of the night, trying to figure out how they're going to send $500. The other thing that predators are asking for, so one is a photo, one is money, right? The other thing is to meet in real life. 6 kids have gotten lured off of Roblox in the first 2 months of this year. They build that friendship. That child thinks it's their best friend. They're anxious to meet them in person. And we've had so many kids go missing off Roblox. That can happen off any app, but I'm telling you, that one is the worst right now. This just happened recently. Many of them are neurodivergent, which makes them more vulnerable online. And so we have to be very, very involved in their online activities. Okay, real quick here about, what time did I start? 10:30, okay. All right, a couple minutes. I'm gonna have to whip through this a little bit quicker. Okay, you need to know the truth about screens. So when we first got into all these apps, we thought that, sorry, this thing is glitching. We thought that it's the content that was making it addictive, but recently so much research has come out. It is the content, yes, but it's actually the product design. These designs are built to addict. Nowadays, these companies are not hiring computer programmers. They're hiring neuroscientists and psychologists, and they're designing these apps based on the slot machine to make them as addictive as possible. And how many of us can feel the impact, right? They're really well done. They know exactly what they're doing, and we have adult brains with a fully developed prefrontal cortex, which means we have the brakes installed. Our children do not have the brakes installed, and so what we're saying is delay access to these highly addictive products. They are as addictive as crack cocaine, and a brain addicted to screens shows the same MRI, the same brain scan as a drug addict. That's how much it impacts the brain, actually changes the shape of the brain. And you can see here, the companies know full well what they're doing, and they don't care. They are after one thing only, that is profit. Okay, sorry, I skipped one a little bit there. Okay. This is a leaked document from YouTube, and for a long time they've been lying about their products, but now we know for certain that they're designed to addict. That is their goal. And if you've been watching the news, Meta is in court this week. In the next couple days, there'll be a verdict to see if they actually knew that they had designed their products to addict. And we're quite certain that there's no doubt they knew exactly what they were doing. They did it anyway over profit. So now that we know that, it's up to us to make some choices. So real quick, we'll go to that video there if we can. Kelly, I'm not sure if that's you, but this is Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Meta, once again lying in court about how they designed their product. And remember, he hasn't changed his tune for a long time from the beginning. They continue to lie about the addictive nature of their product. And so this is him doing more of the same in front of the US Senate. Let's see if that
Mr. Zuckerberg, let me start with you. Did I hear you say in your opening statement that there's no link between mental health and social media use?
Senator, what I said is I think it's important to look at the science. I know people widely talk about this as if that is something that's already been proven. And I think that the bulk of the scientific evidence does not support that.
Well, really, let me just remind you of some of the science from your own company. Instagram studied the effect of your platform on teenagers. Let me just read you some quotes from the Wall Street Journal's report on this. Company researchers found that Instagram is harmful for a sizable percentage of teenagers, most notably teenage girls. Here's a quote from your own study. Quote, "We make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls." Here's another quote. "Teens blamed Instagram," this is your study, "for increases in the rate of anxiety and depression. This reaction was unprompted and consistent across all groups." That's your study.
Senator, we try to understand the feedback and how people feel about the services. We can improve.
Wait a minute, your own study says that you make life worse for 1 in 3 teenage girls. You increase
Senator,
anxiety and depression. That's what it says, and you're here testifying to us in public that there's no link. You've been doing this for years. For years, you've been coming in public and testifying under oath that there's absolutely no link. Your product is wonderful. The science is nascent, full speed ahead, while internally, you know full well your product is a disaster for teenagers.
Senator,
and yet
that's
you
not
keep
true.
right on doing what you're doing. Right?
Not true.
Mr. Zuckerberg, let me start with you. Did I hear you say in your opening statement?
You guys, these companies are and have lied to us. We did not know back then when we started giving our kids iPads and Chromebooks in school and everything, a smartphone. Here, you need to be able to get a hold of me. We did not know that they were designed to hook and addict. Okay, now we know there's ample research. There's a ton of research out there that shows the causal link between that and this current mental health epidemic that we are in. We have never seen the numbers that I have showed you already with skyrocketing rates of depression. Our kids are more connected than ever. They are lonely, they are struggling, and they're losing their ability for social connection, which is again, makes them vulnerable to addictive behavior. It makes sense. They're looking for a place to escape or looking for a way to connect. And so that is what we have to realize, is that we are fighting to protect our children from that kind of a harm. And it is our job, it takes a while and then it goes ahead 10. So there you go, thank you. It's our job to protect their brains. Let them develop naturally. We just have them with us for 18 years, you know? So right now it's gonna feel like you're the only parent that is delaying access to smartphones or social media. Do it, do it. There's gonna be a shift, and it's just starting right now. We're just on the cusp of this cultural shift that's happening with all this research. It's going to take 25% of our population to change the culture. And so we're just aiming for that 25% right now. But the more of us that do it, the less alone our child will be, and our child won't be that only one. Like right now, they may be that only one, but I am asking for everyone to start to delay access, to start rethinking the role of technology in our lives, and that includes, youth groups should be screen-free. Schools, you need to push your schools. No phone access bell to bell. It cannot be on their body. It cannot be in their bag at their foot. It cannot even be in their locker. And I cannot believe schools have not drawn that hard line. And they wonder why children have to go to the bathroom so often and are gone for so long. Really? Do you really not know what they're doing? This is happening a lot, and we're hurting their brains. They can't focus in school. They can't retain anything. They're used to quick, high, fast dopamine. And then we wonder why they can't read a chapter in a book. It's exactly why. They're withdrawing in school. And so we can't allow them to. That's not fair to our kids. They didn't choose that. They didn't know the impact it would have on their brain. It is our job as parents to protect that critical stage of development. There's 2 most important stages of brain development, 0 to 5 and 12 to 17. So we need to protect that critical stage of development. So I'm going to wrap up there. That's the problem, okay? I've just given you a real quick summary of what we're up against. I will come back after lunch and focus only on solution. And so don't be discouraged, but I will warn you, the second part is harder to hear probably than the first part because it is not for the faint of heart. It is only if you're serious about doing something differently in your family and making a change. And so if you are courageous, if you're tired of the way things are going, either in our culture or in your family, then come back for part 2 with pen and paper ready, and I'm going to give you real practical solutions by age and how we can push back on this culture. Okay, so thank you. I'll pass it to Bernice.